Mark, it is great to chat with you. You are the sole person, really, who started launching this Baptize California, Baptize America. It's going to be a global phenomenon very soon, this movement. And, we've spoken in the past about the origins of this, and we'll get to that in a moment. But just recently, we saw Baptize California, massive, massive numbers of people being baptized. Talk about that, and then we'll get into what's to come with Baptize America.
Billy, it's so good to see you, my friend, and I'm grateful for your friendship over the last few years of kind of capturing and getting the word out to so many people from the smaller origins in Southern California to what we're trying to do now in America and beyond. Thank you. We appreciate you so much. But yeah, we had an incredible Saturday just a couple Saturdays ago now. We saw 7,752 people get water baptized. It was a 10-hour baptism. People
Wow.
sometimes ask, how long does it take to do that? And it's just a steady flow of 60 to 100 lines of people getting baptized for 9 hours, 8 hours. And it's just amazing how many stories. We try to capture as many stories as we can at the beach, but it was just unbelievable. Definitely our best one we've done so far. It was kind of in spite of California's weather was not doing us any favors. It was rainy and cold that day for 80% of the day. And so honestly, we were kind of bummed out that, like, God, could you do us a favor and give us some warm weather? The following Saturday was like 90 degrees and sunny, and everyone was at the beach. But we were able to go there in spite of the kind of nominal weather. California really rallied, and people flew in from all over the nation. We had, I think, 70 friends, pastoral friends, fly in from around America with some of the great churches of our nation, and were a part of the event, and it was beautiful.
So you have another event coming, which is the bigger one. And this is an event where you're hoping to have hundreds of churches from every state in America participate in Baptize America. You guys chose to do Baptize California separately beforehand. Was that just to sort of separate it out from this bigger event that you've been planning?
Yeah, we kind of learned the last 2 years, thanks to guys like you and many others of helping us kind of share what happened at the beach. What we learned last year is a lot of the publicity came and people were excited to hear about it, but they also wanted to be a part of it. And we didn't really have a place, an avenue for people to participate after our event. So we prayed about it. We felt like God told us to do the largest single event before, which is the one we just did, to basically get the word out of what's going to happen in local churches throughout America. And so we kind of use this as advertisement, so to speak, so that when everyone's reading this article or hearing this article, that you said, hey, I wasn't there in California at the beach, but I want to get baptized. How do I do that? And now you can go to baptizeamerica.com or baptize.org and literally see every single state. You'll see a church in your state. Hundreds of churches is our goal. Is we want to see thousands of churches. I think we're on track for that right now. But have hundreds of churches in every state, so that when people go to Baptize America's website, they can pick a location that's convenient and close. I think the greatest way to evangelize a city or a state is to plant a local healthy church. And I think the fastest way to make a disciple is to get someone connected to a local church. And so some of these local churches will work together and do big events, regional events. But I would say 80% of the churches are just going to say, hey, we already believe in water baptism. We already do it a couple times a year. We want to join this national movement. And what we found is the pastors that got excited about this the last 2 years that participated, made it a big deal. They had big results. I mean, the biggest baptisms they've ever done. A lot of churches growing by 5-10% in just the size of their church from people coming to get baptized that got plugged in. And there's other people that were like, hey, we'll be a part of it, but they didn't really promote it or talk about it very much. And it was, kind of a normal Sunday. And so we really encourage, and we have a lot of back end resources on how to present this to the church so that people genuinely feel the excitement that God is moving in America. And what started on the beaches of Southern California is going to come vibrantly into the local church in every state of our country.
The fact that you're doing this on such a massive scale and you're encouraging churches across America to take part in it on this one day is pretty, incredible on this one weekend. What for those who want an understanding, like let's say there's somebody who's watching or listening right now and they're saying, okay, I want my church involved in this. What does that look like practically? You just sort of described it, but I want to take people through it so they understand how do they
Yeah.
get their church involved and what will they do on that day, on that weekend?
Absolutely. Great question. If you're whether you're a pastor or maybe you're part of a church and you want your pastor to be a part of this, you can relay this that basically it would take them about 2 minutes to sign their church up at our website, baptizeamerica.com. And all we're doing, this is really an interdenominational, it's the Great Commission really in at work. Matthew 28, go into all the world, make disciples. But he says the secret sauce was kind of hiding in plain sight, baptizing them. And I think the baptism is big enough for all of us to agree that we don't have to agree on the minor aspects of our tenets, but the major things. There's a virgin birth, there's an empty tomb, and he's alive. He's coming again one day. And in the meantime, let's go make disciples and baptize everybody. And so I think if we can agree on that, so all we're asking once they sign up is that Sunday, June 8th, it's Pentecost Sunday, that they promote it to their church, let their church know, hey, we're going to be a part of this national movement that's going to see tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 plus people get baptized in one day. And if you've never been water baptized, or you have a friend that's never been water baptized, bring them. And even if they're people that aren't Christians yet, we talked originally that God gave me this vision because I think water baptism is one of the greatest evangelistic tools that we have in our arsenal to reach the world, because non-believers know that Christmas is his Jesus birthday. They know that Easter is his resurrection, and they know that water baptism is special. I mean, you invite a neighbor that doesn't like church or God, and you tell them your little boy or little girl's getting baptized, they're showing up. And they know that it's sacred. There's something special about it. So even the book of Acts, when they had 3,000 in Acts 2 believe and get water baptized, I never really, to be honest, Billy, I never contextualized what would it look like to have 3,000 get saved in one meeting, and what would it look like to have those 3,000 people find a body of water to get baptized in, and imagine what an anomaly that would be just from a visual standpoint of what are all those people doing getting in the water, and just the curiosity that would have created in the first century that people are getting in water to get baptized. And it wasn't
That's
until we went to
incredible.
Pirates Cove that we baptized 4,166 people 2 years ago that I'm like, this is a scene. I mean, when you have 12,000 people show up to one place and 4,000 get baptized, the whole beach is going, what's going on? Oh, I've never been baptized. And so all we're asking is just really three things. Is we want you, if you're a host church, we want you to make sure that at some point in your Sunday service, you preach the gospel and you give people an opportunity to respond in the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That the good news is that Jesus came to pay for our mistakes, that we can know him, we can surrender our lives to him, that we can actually experience his presence in our life through the Holy Spirit, and that we can live on mission for his kingdom. And so we ask people to preach a clear gospel presentation at some point of their Sunday. We ask people to share what the purpose of water baptism is. And if they don't want to do it, we've made videos that are already pre-done that they can just share with the church to kind of get people knowledgeable about water baptism, identifying with Jesus in his death, his burial, resurrection, the cleansing of the old life, the old man, and rising with newness. We ask to share that. And then the third thing is we ask them to follow up. Again, we have resources we can give the church on how to follow up, but we're not just looking for some fancy big number to advertise on June 9th. Our heart, our conviction is that these people will show up because they're attracted to baptism. And when they show up, we can share the gospel with them. We can get them connected to Jesus. And then after the event's over, we can follow up with them for the next 30 days, really intentionally, to get them connected to these healthy local churches. And so if the church grows because of what we did, we win. That's our heart.
I love that. Okay. And you mentioned this vision. Before we go, I do want to address this because one of the most incredible parts of your story, and the thing when you and I first connected on this, going all the way back, was that this entire movement, which started local, moved to state, now moved as national, will go international. This movement was sparked by a vision that you essentially had from God, which was not something, correct me if I'm wrong, that you routinely had happen to you. And you had this vision and it sort of sparked this entire thing. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think, everything dynamic that God does in the world starts with God. And I think that he's just looking for people that love him enough to spend time with him and acquire his heart, his desire for what he wants to do. And I think if we'll pray, we'll listen to his voice and do what he tells us to do, that his hand will lead us and bless us. And so I'm not a genius like you, Billy. I can't write as well as you, talk as well as you. I took Algebra 2, but I didn't take it that way everyone else did. I took Algebra 1 twice. And so I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I had an encounter with Jesus in just a regular devotional time on a Saturday night. And I heard him say, Mark, and he gave me this I was reading a book on water baptism. We've talked about it before. And I read a book about revivals in California, awakenings. And I read about the largest water baptism in American history. And the two anomalies, it was 1990 was an anomaly, and it was California, Pirates Cove. And I thought, that's so weird that you would think Texas or Tennessee or the Bible Belt would be the host of something so massive. But God chose California in 1990 to do something special. And when I read that, I just heard that voice that probably all believers watching this are familiar with. It's not an audible voice, but it's a very crystal clear internal dialogue voice that the Holy Spirit spoke to my heart and said, Mark, I want you to do this again. I want you to gather all of my kids together and do something that they all agree on, which is water baptism. Billy, a couple nights ago, I got to walk into my wife got my attention. My daughters, I have two girls, their rooms are right next to each other. And my wife got my attention, said, come here. It was a Friday night. And I kind of, quietly walked down to their room, and my two daughters were in bed with a tablet, and they were watching a movie together, and they were, kind of just cuddling up next to each other. And they usually fight, to be honest, like cats and dogs. They're sisters.
Same with my daughters. So you are not alone.
Yes. And so for me to see my girls, I was watching, I just peeked over there. And as a father, Billy, it melted my heart that my kids were loving and enjoying each other. And I felt like God whispered to me when I saw that. He said, Mark, do you know how you feel right now? He says, that's how I feel of what you're doing with all of my kids in different churches and different denominations, is you're getting my kids to love each other, to work together, to do something that matters to me. And so, yeah, God started this. It's bigger than us. It's smarter than us. It's better than us. And I think the reason is because we can't get any credit when something very beautiful happens out of that. So God's always looking for flawed human beings that would just listen to his voice and step out in faith. And I'm probably not the right person, but God has a lot of confidence in us for whatever reason.
Well, he chose to give you that vision. You acted on it. You listened. And now here we are with a massive, massive event across the nation that is about to come. Give us the web address one more time where people can go if they want to sign up.
Yes, Baptize America is probably the easiest one to remember. But we're trying to think about the future because we're going to be launching other nations. We've already inspired Baptize Canada, and a few other nations are already signing up. But baptize.org is going to be where all of them live in the future. When we start launching Baptize Europe, Baptize Africa, Baptize South America, it'll live under baptize.org. But for now, it's probably easier for people to remember Baptize America. Either one will get you there.
Well, Mark, as always, it was great chatting with you. Looking forward to catching up very soon and hearing more about how this incredible event goes. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Billy. Always an honor.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more Christ-centered journalism.